Today on Know the Truth with Philip DeCourcy, a study in the book of Titus on church leadership.
Paul has left Titus to appoint elders in every city. Paul realizes that the gospel work in the Isle of Crete is too big for any one man, and he needs to enlist a whole army of good, qualified leaders that will help manage the work of God, will help shepherd the flocks. Titus was left in charge of putting others in charge.
Churches rise and fall based on the quality and character of the leadership. That's why it's so important to follow God's prescription for pastors and elders. And that's our subject today on Know the Truth with Philip DeCourcy. I'm your host, Wayne Shepherd. Philip is continuing an in-depth study of the book of Titus, and today we're examining what it takes to be an elder, teacher, or pastor in the church. The church is God's vehicle for sharing the gospel and proclaiming His character through those who lead. Here's Pastor Philip.
So we looked at the absence of pastoral leadership. Now we're coming to look at what we started to look at last time, the appointment of leadership, the appointment of pastoral leadership. Titus was left in charge of putting others in charge. And he was to go throughout this island where the church could be found in its many cities. He was to fill the pastoral office. And we started to look at the appointment, the persons who should be an elder, the plurality, how many, the process, how do you appoint them, and the purpose for which they have been appointed. Now we started to look at the persons. And I'm not going to rehash this, but the whole point of that was that it's our conviction, and I give several reasons as to why that the pastoral office ought only to be filled by men. By men. That's the persons. We see that here, and you'll see it in 1 Timothy 3, that all the adjectives describing this ministry, this pastoral leadership office, are all masculine. And we give several reasons of why women should not be pastors. And that's the conviction here at Kindred. And we did quickly point out that's not a denial of the equality of a woman in relation to a man. It's not a denial of God-given giftedness. My point was not to deprecate the dignity of women or their ministry for the gospel's sake. There may be no room for women in the primary pastoral office and leadership within the church, but there's plenty of room in the church and in society and in the home for women to express their giftedness. Let's move on. That's the persons regarding the appointment. Let's move through these next two or three things quickly. The plurality. Not going to spend a lot of time here because it's self-evident. It seems from our text that Titus was to appoint a plurality of men in every church that was found in every city. I don't think the text is saying there, appoint one elder in every church in every city. I think it's saying appoint elders in every church in every city. And I say that because in Acts 14:23, that was the apostles' pattern. Everywhere they went, they appointed plural elders in every city. In Acts 20, verse 17, you'll read that Paul left Miletus and went to Ephesus, and he called the elders to meet with him. What about James 5, verse 14? If someone is sick, they can call the elders, plural, to pray over them. What's the point? The model in the New Testament is not a leader over the church, but leaders over the church. It's a team effort. Of course, there can be a first among equals. There can be a leader of the leaders, but the model is a plurality of godly men exercising shepherding and leadership over the church. Life is a team sport, and church life is also a team sport. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. The ministry is not a one-man band. I don't know if you've ever seen these guys. I haven't seen one for a while. I think the last guy I saw was on Pier 439, is it? Up in San Francisco, the one-man band. There he was with his banjo and his bass drum on his back and his harmonica. And he's just going gangbusters, giving us it his all. I'm kind of entertained. I'm going, I bet you can't do that for more than 10 minutes. Because you can't keep that kind of thing up. You can't play 5 or 6 instruments all at the same time and play it well. And the ministry's the same. The ministry's not a one-man band. One guy can't do it all. He doesn't have the giftedness. He doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the breadth. That's the implication of plurality. As gifted as any leader might be, he doesn't have all the gifts. And his giftedness needs to be supplemented by the gifts of others, so he's better working in a team. Then you have the division of labor within that team. If you've got a team, an A team of leaders who are gifted, their strengths and weaknesses play off each other, and there can be a good division of labor where some will rule well and some will teach well. 1 Timothy 5:17. Honor those who rule well, and especially those who labor in the word and doctrine. All elders must be able to teach, but some will excel in teaching. I believe, hopefully, that's one of my gifts. That's what I give most of my time to. And then within our team, our pastors and elders all teach to some degree, but then they exercise gifts of counseling and administration and rule. That's the blessing of a team. Because no one man has the complete package. It allows you to divide the labor. Number 3, it affords mutual encouragement as you lean on each other. Then you've got collective wisdom. And then you've got accountability, which is a good thing in leadership. So you get the point, plurality. I like the story surrounding Victor Bourget, who was an entertainer of a generation ago. He was once playing in New York's Lincoln Center, and during the concert, this one particular character would laugh the longest, and he would laugh after everybody else had stopped laughing. But you know what? This guy kept doing it. And Victor Bourget, he stops at one point. Here's what he says in the middle of the concert. Would you be kind enough, sir, to laugh when the rest of the audience laughs? Because if everyone's going to laugh individually, we'll never get out of here. We've got to do this together. It's the same in life, same in ministry. That's the beauty of marriage. That's the beauty of friendship. That's the beauty of a plurality of godly men. Doing it together is better. So you've got the persons, godly men. You've got the plurality, godly men, a group of men. Next, you've got the process. Not going to spend a lot of time on this. What is the process of appointment? What did it look like? Who did it? Well, it's clear from Acts 14:23 that until kind of elders were appointed and the church matured, in those early days, the apostles were the primary leaders. They will pass off the scene. We believe that's a temporary office. But they appointed elders in every city, Acts 14:23. Then you've got Titus, who's a delegate of the apostles, someone that they put their hands on and said, hey, you can act on our behalf. And Paul leaves Titus, a delegate in Crete, to act on his behalf. And so he's to appoint elders in every city. So I'm building up an argument here. Who gets to appoint elders? So far, apostles appoint elders. Their delegates appoint elders. And one other verse I see directly is the presbytery appoints elders. What do I mean by presbytery? It's just the plural of presbyteros, a plurality of elders. That's what a presbytery is. And if you go to 1 Timothy 4:14 and 2 Timothy 1 verse 6, Paul says to Timothy, remember when the presbytery or the group of elders put their hands on you and separated you to the gospel ministry? So what about the process? We don't need to get down in the weeds, but it would seem that the apostles did it, their delegates did it, and as the church emerges, elders picked elders. I can't find anywhere in the New Testament where the congregation picked the elders. Now, I'm not denying congregationalism, full stop. You can see in Acts 6, you can see in Acts 15, the congregation played a role in the selection of deacons and other aspects of church life. But it's hard for me to find any clear passage where the congregation selected the elders. It makes sense. I mean, why would the leaders of the church, when it comes to the most important decision in leadership, that is the picking of a leader, delegate that to someone else? Is that not an abdication of leadership? Why would the shepherd ask the sheep to pick the shepherd? That's not a denial of the priesthood of believers. I'm not putting congregations down. I think it's wise for elders and pastors to meet with their congregation, to listen and to learn and to get perspective from all sides. But they're never to abdicate their rule or their decision making to the congregation. You know what? That's all I'll say on that. And if you don't agree, you have every right to be wrong. And here's the fourth point, the purpose. The purpose. As elders are appointed, what are they appointed to? Well, initially, as I looked at this, I didn't see a lot. Because if you look at Titus 1, 5-9 and 1 Timothy 3, 1-7, the first thing will strike you is it doesn't talk a lot, or it seems it doesn't talk a lot about activity. It talks about a lot about the character and the makeup of the man himself. We'll come to that in a moment because that's true. But the more I read Titus 1, 5-9, 8 things jumped out about kind of profile, what an elder will give himself to. Number one, he'll offer a mature example. That's embedded in the idea of elder. Remember what I've said, it's come out of the life of Israel. It's a synagogue word. And what we know from research, no one in the Jewish community could be an elder under 30. Now, whether we want to carry that over into the Christian church and say, no one can be in leadership until they're over 30, I'm not sure. But it's at least conveying this idea. There's a certain maturity about that leader. They've lived a bit. As we said earlier, there's some miles on their odometer. In fact, here it's assumed he's going to be married with children. He's lived a little. He's not straight out of university. He knows life. He lives in the trenches. He's exercising leadership at home. So he offers a mature example. Number two, he brings seasoned wisdom. Still comes out of this idea of the elder. If we're told that Titus is to appoint elders, that means men of maturity who are an example in their lives and who have some seasoned insight on the life. They're good decision makers. They know how to think. Number three, they're to set things in order. Okay, set things in order, the things that are lacking. Verse 5. That's what elders will do. That's why Titus will appoint them. What does that mean? They will mature a ministry. Now, time has to go by. The clock has to tick. But at some point, at several years, 5 years, 10 years, you should be able to demonstrably look at a church and say, you know what? Under this present leadership, it's growing down and out. It's maturing. We're not what we once were. We're better at this. We're growing here. They will set in order things that are lacking. They'll bring about change and transformation. Number 4, they will exercise spiritual oversight because they're called a bishop in verse 7. They will be among the congregation. They will disciple. They will discipline. They will just give spiritual oversight. Number 5, they will be theologically astute. They will be doctrinally definitive. Why do I say that? Because in verse 7, they're called stewards of the gospel, managers of the gospel. The gospel is being entrusted to them, and they guard it with their life. They're not so much worried about popularity, what the audience thinks, what the culture says. They are stewards of the gospel. They are theologically astute. Number 6, they teach the word. Verse 9, they hold fast the faithful word has been taught them so that they might be able to teach sound doctrine through exhortation and rebuke. They not only are theologically astute, they're not only doctrinal, they're good at communicating it. They're able to communicate it. They're able to put it down on the bottom shelf and get across theology and doctrine in a way that's palatable to their people. Number 7, they're to encourage godliness, because they are to exhort, at the end of verse 9, through sound doctrine. And number 8, they are to rebuke sin. They are to contradict those who contradict sound doctrine and the faithful word. Too many pastors have a wishbone where they need to have a backbone. They need to have conviction, clarity, willing to stand for the truth. When it's unpopular, when it's not in season, they'll preach the word in season and out of season. So put that all together. Elders lead, rule, develop, guard, teach, care, rebuke. Let's move on. The assessment of leadership. We'll take the balance of our time here and cover the assessment of leadership. What is he to look like? What's the measure of this man? Here's a job description for the primary church leader. And there's three things that jump out. If you're taking notes, you might want to write these down. His character, his connections, his convictions. It's all here. I'll unpack it. But before we go there, by this stage you may be checking out and go, hey, Pastor, this is good. It's good for you, good for the leaders, good for young men that are thinking about seminary. Well, more than that. It's good for you. One, because this is what you ought to expect from us. You know, you can hold our feet to the fire of Titus 1, verses 5 through 9. If you move and you go to another church at some point in your life, look at the man in leadership. Look what's coming from the pulpit. Ask yourself, is this the kind of church that's good for my family? Because you can get caught up in the bells and whistles of children's ministry and whatever your preference and style is in music, and you forget, hey, the first thing I need to be concerned about is the primary thing. Who's in charge of this congregation and what are they like? Are they biblical? Are they what Titus and Timothy describe? Then don't forget this, 1 Peter 5:3, Hebrews 13:7 and 17. Elders are the benchmark for spirituality. They're called examples. Doesn't Peter say that? Be an example to the flock. So what does that mean? It means that you actually want to be like this description yourself. Now, while God desires it from you, he demands it of them. This is what leaders must be. They must be this. You ought to be this. There can be a point in your life where you're not this. But there can't be a point in their life where they're not this in any demonstrable fashion. So don't check out on me here. We've got about 15 minutes to go. This is important. What about their character and their connections and their convictions? Well, as you can imagine, character is bedrock. Because what we are or who we are colors everything we do. Life is an inside-outside thing. It's out of the heart, the issues of life flow. So you'd understand, it shouldn't surprise you, that indeed Paul would say to Titus, hey, I want you to look for men that are blameless in character, unimpeachable in character. He says in verse 6 and verse 7, they are to be blameless. Character comes before capacity. I don't care how gifted they are. I don't care how good they are at what they do. Character comes before capacity, because capacity without character leads to abuse, hypocrisy, and tyranny in leadership. Now, the word blameless here can throw us off because it could leave the impression, man, they're to be blameless, perfect, spotless, no blotch on their copybook. Well, you know that can't be that, because that awaits glorification. What does it mean? Well, it's certainly a hallmark virtue, and it carries the idea of unimpeachable in character, above reproach in reputation. What does that mean, above reproach? It means that, you know what, they're above scandal. Scandal can't reach them because their lives are in order. Doesn't mean they're perfect. It just means that they're unimpeachable in character. This is a present tense verb. This is what they are when you meet them, and as far as you can remember them. That's the direction of their life. This is the umbrella term. Everything said beneath this kind of fits under this. Alistair Begg has a good analogy that I heard him share some years ago. He says that the elder is a Teflon man. Remember when Teflon came on the market? You know, before that, if you had a frying pan, everything stuck to it. your egg stuck to it, your bacon stuck to it, and your mother had to scrub that thing clean before she could use it again. Then comes the Teflon frying pan. And you saw the adverts where the egg could be kind of, just slipping all over the place and flipped and wouldn't stick. It's the non-stick pan. And Alistair kind of says, that's the elder. He's a Teflon man. Scandal doesn't stick. Criticism doesn't stick. Censorship doesn't stick. It's not that he's perfect, but he's a good man with his life in order. So on to this character idea, you have 11 positive and negative qualities. Now, I'm not going to kind of dig down into them deeply. Notice verse 7. For a bishop must be blameless, a steward of God, not self-willed. He's a man, it's not about him, it's about you. He doesn't think about himself first, he thinks about others first, Philippians 2. He seeks first the kingdom of God. He doesn't have an agenda. It's about the kingdom, it's about the king. He's not self-willed. It's not about him, it's about you. It's not about him, it's about Christ. He's not quick-tempered. It doesn't fly off the handle. If you're in leadership to any degree, let alone the church, you know that you've got to have a kind of calm spirit as a leader, because stuff gets messy. And a good leader can't be quick-tempered. He's got to be patient. He's got to have a long fuse, or everything around him will be exploding and falling down. Not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not given to wine. I don't believe that's a prohibition against drinking wine. I've made it my life choice not to drink alcohol, but I don't believe the Bible prescribes that. I think that's a wisdom choice on our part. But it's not a prohibition against drinking wine. It's a prohibition about liking it too much, giving yourself to it. It's certainly a prohibition against drunkenness, because later on the elder is described as someone who's sober-minded, clear in his thinking. And too much wine, too much alcohol, you get the buzz, get a little fuzzy. It's not good for leadership. A man can't be dominated by drugs or influence to a point which clouds his thinking. Not violent, that means he's not a bully. Remember, he's not self-willed, it's not about him. But there are those in leadership, it is about them. They don't get their way, they throw a tantrum, they get quick-tempered. And then you can even get violent. It's not emotional bullying, it's physical bullying. Paul says never, shouldn't be. Not greedy for money, kind of self-explanatory. He's not greedy, he's not trying to fleece the congregation. He's hospitable, his home is open, his family is accessible, he's a lover of what is good, he's sober-minded, he's just, he's devout, he's a dedicated disciple, he's holy, separated from ungodliness, and he's self-controlled.
Today's message is called It Starts at the Top, and that's an important theme as Philip DeCourcy takes us to the book of Titus here on Know the Truth. We're in the middle of a series called Doing Good, and you can replay today's message when you visit us online at ktt.org or on the KTT app or podcast. Just grab your smart device and search your favorite app or podcast store for Know the Truth with Pastor Philip DeCourcy. Well, here at Know the Truth, we believe the world urgently needs the hope and truth found only in the gospel, and that's why we're committed to boldly proclaiming God's unchanging word, clearly, faithfully, and without compromise. But we couldn't do this without the generosity of friends like you who share the burden of sending the life-giving good news over the airwaves and to those who need it most. As a thank you for your faithfulness, we'll send you Emil Zwain's book, Fight Like a Man, a bold biblical battle plan for personal purity. In a world attacking sexual purity, the battle for holiness is fierce, and the stakes for all of us, men, women, and our families, have never been higher. Now is the time to fight like a man. So give online at ktt.org or ask for Emil's book when you call 888-644-8811. I'm your host, Wayne Shepherd, signing off, but be sure to come back next time for another lesson in the book of Titus from Philip DeCourcy, here on Know the Truth. Today's program was produced and sponsored by Know the Truth Incorporated. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free."